Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today on J Slay, Made in the USA, where we explore truth, expose deception, and inspire courage. Guys, I'm pumped about today's show. We have a guest who's got very similar passions to me in terms of the great outdoors, hiking, being on trails, but doing that with your boys. And this man is a professor at both secular and Christian colleges. He's a well-known author of Why Are We Sitting Here Until We Die? And Rules for Leadership for Boys. I know I'm getting the title a bit wrong there. But he's also been a mental health counselor, and that led into his, or it aligned with his passions of helping young men grow into their Christian faith, find themselves in a world that is set against them on so many levels. And he began or didn't begin, but he's the CEO of Trail Life USA. You can find that at traillifeusa.com. And most recently, they have come alongside of Brave Books and released a book, I guess, in conjunction together about the dangers of all the screen time and how we need to get outdoors more and the value of that. So with that, Mark, thanks so much for coming on the program today. So glad to have you.
Jeremy, it's my pleasure to be here, but I do need to correct you. I'm not the founder. I'm the CEO of Trail Life USA. At our beginnings, we had 300 people across the country who got together and began working on this idea of an alternative to the Boy Scouts. And so I don't take ownership of that at all. There's so many people that were at the beginning of this organization, but thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, also you have joined forces with Brave Books, which we can get into that in a minute. I want to hear first. I saw in your background you have two master's degrees in mental health counseling, and I talk all the time on my show about screen time, and sometimes I can be hypocritical because I do a lot of my work on screens. But what have you seen with mental health with young boys in today's society, with just the overwhelming I guess desire, as well as it's just put in our faces all the time with kids? What's happening mentally with them?
Yeah, well, you hit that in your opening. We really are part of this digital culture now where we're used to having a phone in our pockets, a screen in front of our face all the time, but we're paying a price for it. And it seems to be showing up mostly in our kids. And, boys are now twice as likely to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They've fallen behind girls in every single academic category. There's now more girls going to college than boys.
Mm-hmm.
The rate they are leading in, Jeremy, and this is tragic, is suicides. Boys 10 to 14 years old, the fastest growing demographic. And we know that this screen time, this intensive into things that are happening in the virtual world, not paying attention to what's right in front of our face, we know that's a big piece of it. It's affected our attention spans, and you and I, certainly, we didn't grow up with them in our hands, but these kids are getting them younger and younger, and so it changes everything. It's rewiring their brains. It's a tragic thing. We've got to work on maintaining those connections with the outdoors, like you talked about, and those face-to-face interactions that we have with people.
Absolutely. And as you're talking there, you said the shortening of the attention span. I noticed that happened with me, whereas I used to be, as a kid, I remember especially, I was very patient. Now, part of that was my Christian upbringing and being taught to delay gratification, whereas everything that happens on social media or on the phone or on a video game is all about immediate gratification to keep you plugged into that. And I was on your Instagram page and I saw this word, ramble. And I'm just going to read the first sentence and then I'd like to hear you digress on it. The line was, "It is essential that boys learn the wonder of boredom." I don't think I've ever heard it put that way, but tell us about that.
Yeah, that's true. We kind of lost that. We're always looking for the next thing, particularly our kids. It's like they can't relax. And so we don't have time to process our thoughts. We don't have time to process our emotions. We have so many distractions that we can go to, and it's affecting us emotionally. Instead of us recognizing, hey, I'm feeling sad right now. I wonder what that's about. I want to work through that. I want to understand that feeling. Mm-hmm. Instead, we pick up a phone. We pick up something to distract ourselves. And as kids get older, they find other things to distract themselves, whether it's alcohol or drugs or some kind of other, activity, instead of learning to just be quiet with ourselves. I remember when my boys were young, one of them said to me, "Dad, I'm bored." And I said, this came out of my mouth, Jeremy, I don't know where, didn't even give any thought. I said, "You're not bored, you lack purpose." And it's so true in our culture today that we've taken purpose away from kids. and they have these devices in the hand, even the agency that they would have to be able to decide what it is that they're going to watch next, somebody else is determining that for them. Yeah. So as they're flipping through the videos or anything, if they like something, they're going to get more of those videos. And so somebody else is saying, this is what you're going to do next. This is what you're going to watch next. This is what you're going to watch next. And somebody else is lining up what you're going to watch next.
Yes.
And so it's taken a lot of the purpose or even the thought or own just the pure agency of being able to make decisions about what it is that we're going to do next. And it's really affected the kids. And so to have that opportunity to kind of be bored, to be away from our devices, to be in the beautiful outdoors and experience just sitting and enjoying a mountain vista or just enjoying the sound of the birds in the trees or whatever it is, it's hard for those kids to do in their culture today because they're just reaching for that phone, for that distraction, for somebody tell me what it is that I need to see next.
That's right.
And we're losing that agency, and it's really tragic.
Yeah, and I talk to men all the time, and this is one of the topics we discuss, not in terms of our kids, but in terms of ourselves and what it's doing to us. And I think the mirroring effect of, we're telling our kids, hey, I'll play with you in a little bit. And you even may say to them, hey, you're not going to watch TV right now. You're not going to be on a screen right now. And then you go and sit there because you're doing work on a screen. And I'm preaching to myself right now because I'll do that. So they're seeing us do it all the time. And I think it just lends credibility to what you're saying, that we ourselves, we need to get off of it when we're around them more often so that they see us being able to enjoy things where other adults might be bored because they don't have the capacity to enjoy what's around them anymore. So I think it's incredibly important for the adult as well. What do you say?
Yeah, well, it is. And it's also a real clear indicator for our kids of where they fit in our hierarchy. So give me a minute, I need to finish this email, or give me a minute, I'm watching this, or be quiet for just a minute. What we're doing is we're saying over and over again, you don't matter. You don't matter. And as they get older, as they begin to drift from us, it's the kind of the cats in the cradle kind of thing. Where'd my kids go? Well, they were there, but you never let them know that they mattered. And this is a tragic thing that we're seeing in our culture today with men and boys losing their connections, which over the years, that mentoring relationship, the discipleship relationship, the example of what a good man is like, we're losing those things. And boys are now being mentored. Somebody said the other day that Google, this is the first generation being raised by Google. They're not going to dad with the questions that maybe you and I went to dad for, where do babies come from, these kind of things. They're going to their phones. And it's all these things that we used to be able to offer as mentors or as guides are being taken over by somebody else. And we're losing those vital connections, those face-to-face interactions that are so powerful. I really believe that joy is harvested in the face of another person. You have that experience in middle school when you turn around with your cafeteria tray and you're looking for where you're going to sit. And you're looking for a face, for a familiar face, and that feeling that, oh, there's that person I'm going to sit with. Or you walk into a crowded room and you don't really know a lot of people, but you see a familiar face and you're just drawn to it. Well, we're losing those face-to-face interactions and that joy that we find with just being in the presence of another person, even if it's just being quiet or just enjoying something quietly. And it's having really bad effects on our kids and on our relationships, husbands and wives, fathers to sons. All those relationships are being threatened by this. Now, there's certainly a lot of power in these digital devices. I mean, we're using technology right now, so it's a wonderful thing. You and I are connecting. We're talking with one another. We're sharing with each other. We're engaged. Our brains are working. It isn't an absent-minded sort of thing. So there's differences in the use of technology and how involved we can be and the connections that we can make through it. And there's a big difference between that and the sort of mindless kind of media that a lot of the kids are dealing with today.
Right. Well, they're just consuming what's being put in front of them. And like you said, when you're relying on YouTube or Google as the algorithm is deciding what's next to watch for you, those algorithms are programmed by a human being, probably out in California, that has an agenda for your kids. That's something I study often, is what's the global agenda and all this from the top down. I mean, it's unbelievable the way they subversively put in things into that next video that pops up that might be promoting a bit of transgenderism or a bit of something that is far away from Christian values, meant to confuse or to begin to knock these children off balance, and adults as well. So I very much think we've got to be on the lookout for that and be very aware of what we're dealing with. You are providing a structure to do these very things that you're talking about, the good things, through Trail Life USA. I had not heard of it before. I should have, because it's huge. I think you had like 50,000 members now or something. Tell us about the structure that Trail Life USA provides and how people, what they can expect from that organization.
Sure, I'd love to. Trail Life USA is a Christ-centered, boy-focused adventure, character, and leadership organization for boys. We're formed in troops across the country. We have over 50,000 members. We're in all 50 states and over almost 1,300 churches across the country that are running these programs with troops. And so everything you would expect from an outdoor boys program, uniforms and robust awards program, and outdoors hiking, father-son mentorship, discipleship, patrols, all that sort of thing, except we are Christ-centered and boy-focused, which is different from that organization that's been around for 100 years. And so when they began to walk away from their values, we said somebody's got to do something. And so Trail Life rose out of this groundswell and has grown now into, of course, this nationwide organization that's helping fathers get closer to sons. It's helping boys who don't have dads to be mentored by godly men. It's helping men to find a brotherhood, a band of brothers in the outdoors to go out and get. We have a lot of men in our program, Jeremy, that don't even have a son in the program, but they're there because they want to pour into the next generation, and they're there because they found their brotherhood. They found their guys that they like hanging out with. There's so few places for us to connect anymore as men, and we don't do so well sitting across a table drinking coffee. We don't really connect face to face. Men, we do a much better job side by side, turning a wrench or hiking a trail or sitting around a fire or something like that. That's where we connect when we're about something bigger than we are. And there's nothing bigger in my mind than the next generation of boys. And so as godly men, we're taking them in the outdoors and these amazing experiences, challenging them with adventure and with badges that they earn. There are no participation trophies. They're working for this, so they're getting the satisfaction of having earned something, not just being given something because they showed up. So in all of these ways, we're ministering and growing these boys into godly men through Trail Life USA. Now we have over 18,000 adult volunteers across the country who are investing their lives in this next generation of boys.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. I'm right here on the website. I hope you can see that, right?
I can.
Okay, so if I'm here in Tennessee and I click Find a Troop, okay, so it looks like I'm good to go. Let me.
Yeah, it's down there in that corner in the bottom right, you see search. Just put your zip code in there, and you'll see what pops up.
We'll do that.
I'll scroll down,
there's one right here. I'm in Franklin, so Parish Presbyterian Church. I could click that. Connect with troop.
Yeah, if you scroll down, it'll tell you when they meet. It'll send an email to them saying, "Hey, I'm interested in showing up with my sons. What do I do?" And you're off and running. And if there's not a troop in your area, there's a tab there that says "Start a Troop," and it takes you through the process of getting a troop started at your church. We're a little bit different than Boy Scouts. We just don't meet in the basement of a church. We are an outreach of that local church. We're a ministry of that local church. So our troops are church-owned. When we look to where the Boy Scouts went wrong, they lost their connection with those local churches, and they just started meeting in their basement. We see ourselves as God's plan in the local church for growing that church. And a lot of churches that starting Trail Life Troops are seeing their church grow because that unchurched boy is joining the troop. And then that unchurched family joins the church. So we're seeing a lot of growth in churches that have Trail Life Troops. That's
amazing. One other thing that really intrigued me when I first was put into contact with you was your connection with Brave Books. My mom has as grandmother has got our sons several of their books, and I want to play this quick clip that I found on your Instagram page, and then let you speak on this for a moment.
Needs for fathers and sons to connect are fewer and fewer. Boys live in a different world than the one that you and I were raised in. And so the distractions that they have, those opportunities for fathers and sons to connect are fewer and fewer.
I don't have a phone.
I don't have a phone. Can't have phones or anything all the time.
But if you don't have a phone, what do you do in your free time?
I have
graham crackers before.
I like it too much.
So the outdoors is this great level playing field where dads and boys in the outdoors are discovering things together. Any dad in the outdoors with his son is going to find opportunities to connect with his son in a different way, away from the distractions, away from the video games, away from the phones, the friends, all those things going on.
So, Mark, speak to our over 30,000 subscribers. Tell them what to look forward to whenever they get this book in the mail.
Yeah, well, this is going to create great opportunities for you to talk with your kids about the dangers of social media, about what it does.
All right.
So rather than let the video do all this description there, it looks like the name of the book is Too Much Tubular. We don't have that one yet. Tell us about that book.
Too Much Tubular, and your boys will be getting this one if you subscribe. It takes place on Freedom Island, and so they're probably familiar with the Freedom Island saga and the characters in there. And without spoiler alert, the characters in Forensic Park are addicted to the social media at that time, which is called tubular. And that's where the name comes from, Too Much Tubular. And they stand at these tubes and wait for the pictures to pop out. And then they're just addicted to this and walk around like zombies. But without giving this whole story away, they end up meeting this family outdoors who's camping. And they're asking them about why they're not, zombies. And so they're able to eventually go back and set the city free and share the concept of moderation. Of using these kind of digital tools and moderation, not being controlled by them. So it's a great story for the kids. Like I said in the video, I think it's a great opportunity for conversations with your kids, because you can be sitting I'm sure you've had this experience, Jeremy. You're sitting in a restaurant, you see another family at a table, and they've all got their phones, and here they are sitting together having dinner together, but everybody, nobody's talking to each other. And so I envision, dads elbowing their sons, or sons elbowing each other, saying, "Hey, there's a bunch of zombies at that table over there," and recognizing in that behavior by being able to see it now through the story, they're more free to talk about it, and then they can also recognize that behavior in themselves, and they say, "Gosh, I don't want to be a zombie." I understand the power of this thing in my hands, but I need to use it in moderation. I need to be careful. So we're encouraging those connections between families. And that's why we partner with Brave Books, because they have a lot of great messages that ring true, with the folks in our organization. And we felt like we could really speak to the power of the outdoors and connecting the outdoors as an antidote for this screen time disaster that we're encountering.
Sure. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that you are not offering this on Kindle or Apple Books.
And, Brave Book, you get them at bravebooks.com.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is the physical copy rather than staring at the screen again.
I hear you.
To read the books.
Yeah. But it is neat. I got to tell you, I read a lot of books on Kindle, but this book, because I've had a chance to read it to groups of boys and tell them the story. I just love holding a book again in my hands and being able to hold it up to them and show them the pictures and look at what's going on the page. And so, there is something to the analog book that's exciting all over again. Right.
No doubt about it. And there's got to be, I don't know if you've studied this or not, but you may have some insight. I mentioned my struggles years ago when I was not that long, 4 years ago, where I was just on the computer screens or the phone screen constantly with work and always thinking about it. And I actually went through a detox where I was still working, and this was hard. And for a week, I went back to a flip phone that I could only text with the old T9 text, but there was no pictures, none of that. And I was like, for my sales calls, I had to print out the MapQuest stuff. So it was a hassle. But I remember feeling like a painful feeling for like 3 or 4 days. And then it kind of went away. And then I became more aware of my surroundings. And I remember I was at the airport in Chicago, walking through this airport, and I looked around, and you talked about zombies at the table. And that's really sad when it's a family. But it was like there was thousands of people there. This was pre-COVID when people weren't, all masked up and all that. So it was like 2018, 2019. But no one was connecting. No one. Every single person was looking down at their screen on their phone, whether they were in line for the flight or, waiting in line at the restaurant, whatever. and it just like, there was just this brand new awareness and clarity that I had. And I even had the thought, like, if Jesus were alive today, would he be burying his phone, his face in his smartphone all the time? It was just a really like weird thought. Is there something that's happening chemically in the brain that you might have insight on when a child or a grown person is constantly, fulfilling themselves or being gratified by that immediate stuff?
There really is. And there's people who can speak to this a lot better than I can, but I know enough to know that there are chemicals released in the brain, primarily dopamine, that's released when we get certain rewards. And we are addicted to our phones. And if you want to look at the science for yourself or have an understanding for yourself, I encourage you, set your phone down and think how long before you've got to pick it back up just to check it. Just to see that something, because your brain is looking for that fix again, and then you'll get an idea of how addicted you are to that chemical that's being dropped. When you get on there and you find a notification, you find nothing at all. But there is a chemical thing that happens in our brain where we get to where we've got to reach for it, or that vibration or the ding or whatever it is we have. It sets something off on the inside of us, and it builds and builds and builds, and so. Encourage your viewers and listeners. You can try for some. Start thinking about how many times you're checking your phone, and what you've discovered is how hungry your brain is for that chemical release. It's an addiction.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. What would you say about behaviors with boys? Like my older son, he can be stubborn like a lot of boys. He also loves adventure. But here lately, as I've gotten really busy, and I'm telling on myself here, I've gotten back into the mode where I am looking at the computer too much. I know I do it for work, but away from the computer, I'm sitting there on the couch looking at my phone, whatever, and the boys are like nearby playing or watching a YouTube video or what have you. But my older son is beginning, like here recently, like I'll be like, hey, buddy, you want to go out and hike? And he'll say no. And that again, that's more of a recent thing, and I've got to pay attention to that. But I read on the your website, it was talking about how behavioral problems a lot of times are linked to screen time, and maybe other areas that you would speak on.
Yeah, well, there's really some remarkable stuff, and we're able to pair it out now to where it's not just talking about just screen time, but certain types of screen time are more dangerous than others. The mindless sort of things where you're scrolling and just watching one thing after another, that's one thing. But it's actually, there's some interesting stuff where it depends on what your son's watching. If you're watching a lot of YouTube videos, that's sort of the worst kind of stuff because, like I said, he's given up his agency, his ability to decide, to even think about what it is that I want to do next because somebody else is making that decision for him. So dad interrupting that process and saying, hey, let's go do something we used to really enjoy, it's not giving the same level of satisfaction. Yeah. But there are actually some video things, and I don't know that I would encourage more of this, but in the video gaming world, people are actually engaging there. It's not a real engagement, but it's more active than it is sort of the idle strolling things. So we look at boys and we spend the amount of time that they spend in the video game world. It's not good, but it's not as bad as this idle scrolling kind of stuff because they are engaged. They are working towards something. Their minds are processing things. Yeah. But in some of those cases, if they're in some sort of a team adventure or something, there is some interaction going on. It'll never be, being in front of somebody, right. but there is some social interaction going on there. I know over Thanksgiving, I had my two sons who are now grown, and one had his wife and one had his fiance, and the six of us were watching one of them play Fortnite, which I guess has just brought back something in there that they used to play as kids. They said, "Oh, you want this?" And we're all cheering him on, and it was great. It was great because there was interaction. There were people talking. Sure. It wasn't somebody locked away in his room, with the lights off and just headphones on, but it was interaction. So there's positive ways to to do these things. And the key is connection, and that's really what we're missing between people. We're teaching kids. We're not teaching kids how to connect in a healthy, positive way. I can spy kids who don't do a lot of digital work because they'll look you in the eye when they talk to you. And kids who their parents are training to engage and connect with other people because they'll look you in the eye, they'll actually have a conversation with you. But so many kids are losing that ability to interact with other people because they're just not practicing it. And if you don't practice something, as an athlete, you begin to lose those skills and desires
Yeah.
over time.
No doubt about it. And you got to work yourself back into enjoying it again and all that. But it does come back. I know that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about safety for a minute. You and I have really, this is the first time face to face that we have met, but there's an immediate trust built in because we're kind of speaking the same language. I mentioned that I'd watched a previous show of yours on James Dobson. So we both kind of know who, we know. But there have been a lot of ministries use that where people don't ask questions. And one of even in here close by to Franklin, there was recently a local youth pastor that was known for years, and he got busted for sexual abuse among like kids. And it happened. And then a local soccer coach, same thing. They were relying on reputation and the Christian branding out front, and people just didn't ask questions. And it was actually a great shield for them to do what they were doing. So people that have that curiosity, like, hey, I've not actually heard of Trail Life USA except for on maybe Jeremy's podcast or whatever. That's not enough. How can people know that their kids are in good hands?
Yeah, well, I'd love that question because we like introducing churches that we charter at to some of the safety protections we have in place. And that's a side effect of our ministry. When we move into a church, all of our adults are background checked. They're child safety, youth protection trained. They have a personal reference. We follow the 1, 2, 3 rules of youth protection as required. And so we come in with the troop, insisting on this with all of our adult leadership, and a lot of times the church will embrace it too. So, wow, we should be doing that too. So we have what we believe is the gold standard for child safety and youth protection. We have a very well developed health and safety guide, an interactive type of guide where when our troop leaders go onto our website for the members, they'll put on the calendar an event they're going to do, and they'll say, we're going to do canoeing, and it'll pop up and say, okay, if you're going to do canoeing, you need to be aware of this, this, and this, and this. And so we're constantly about safety and youth protection in terms of child protection, keeping them in front of the right people and away from the wrong people is at the top of our list. And that's why I said every adult is background checked, not just once, but periodically. And we do, every adult takes child safety, youth protection training, not just once, but periodically they're reassigned. If they're not in compliance, their membership is suspended. They're not allowed to attend the meetings until they get back in compliance again. And then, like I said, the personal reference, you can't just go online and join Trail Life. You saw when you went to the link, it says contact that local troop. Well, why is that? Because we want that local troop to know you. Somebody is going to sign off on you and say, I know this man personally, and I can vouch for his character. And you may need to get some references from a pastor or somebody who knew you well, so you can take a place in that troop and be a part. So we do everything that we can to keep boys safe. Our 1, 2, 3 policies: there's never an adult alone with a boy, so it's no one-on-one. Number 2 is 2 deep leadership. We always have two leaders within eyesight or earshot of one another. So there's always another adult nearby. And 3 is we have buddy systems of 3. We don't send boys off by themselves and buddy systems of 2. We found that 3 tends to take away some of the bullying aspects of the program. And also there's sexual molestation activity between boys. And so buddy system of 3 has really worked for us too. So we insist on that 1, 2, 3 guidelines for protection. And we believe we've got the safest organization out there for boys.
Well, that's good. You answered that well, and that was like an unsolicited question that I kind of surprised you with there. So that sounds great. Now, as I went to your website again here, I got fired up because I remember when I was in the Cub Scouts, I loved getting the badges, the belt loop things. I loved the Pinewood Derby race car, the racing. So these challenges and this sense of advancement and accomplishment. This looks really cool. Tell us about this aspect of the program.
Yeah, well, that gives you just a snapshot of our advancement trail. Our program starts at 5 years old, and it goes up through 17 years old for the youth, and then they can transfer over and be adult leaders. And our Woodlands Trail program, you see that little item to the left with a little W on it. That's our elementary age program, and they start as foxes, and then they go become hawks, and then they become mountain lions from the ages of 5 to 10. And there's a capstone award during that time called the Timberline Award. So if you go through the Woodlands Trail program and you do some extra things, including service project and servants types of things. Then you get the Timberline Award, which you get to wear on your uniform for your entire life. It doesn't go away because you're not in elementary school anymore. It's a significant award, a capstone award. And the middle grade program is those ones you see in the middle, the recruit, the able, and the ready. That's ages 11 through 13, approximately middle school, and those are called navigators. And they go through the progression of those ranks also. And their capstone award is called the Ridgeline Award, and they can earn that by doing some extra things. It's a pretty big deal. You see a boy who's got both the Timberline and the Ridgeline. You really seen a young man who's worked hard on some things. And then our high school program is called the Adventurers Out to the Right, the Journey, the Ascent, the Horizon Award, and our capstone award for our adventurers is called the Freedom Award. If you're familiar with the Boy Scout Eagle, it's like that, but it's more difficult. It has faith elements and has some other elements to it. So if you ever run into a young man who's a freedom rangeman, you've met quite a young man.
That is really cool. Yeah, I'm getting into this now. I'm thinking, okay, this is something else I've got to get my son to.
Scroll up just a little bit. I want to point out. See on the left there.
Oh, right here.
That medallion. That's what we give. We don't give patches that they sew onto a sash. That's a badge. That's one of the badges that they earn, and that's nailed onto a hiking stick called the Standard. And it's a 3-year-old sapling that we harvest them in Bavaria for this purpose. And the boys are presented with the Standard, and they nail their awards to the Standard. A very masculine, rite of passage sort of award. And that's just one of the badges that we have right there. Of course, we have all kinds of skill badges too, from camping and hiking and rope work and all those things, skills there. This one happens to be a values badge around family man. We talk about what it means to be a good father.
It's a pretty comprehensive award system. Do you have badges for dads that do a good job? Because I'm looking to get some of this satisfaction now.
You want some of the bling. No, your badge is when your son looks up and says, "Dad, I had an amazing weekend. Thanks for being with me." We don't have an adult award system because our focus is on the boys. But we do have a lot of dads who are tremendously rewarded by the satisfaction in pouring into the next generation.
Absolutely.
That's your award.
Well, Mark, I want to ask you in just a few minutes about your other books, and because you held them up off camera earlier. I'm very interested in hearing about that. But I just really quickly want to let the men know about a program that I'm running called Warrior Mind, Body, and Soul, and this is kind of alongside of that idea I was talking about earlier. If you're in a rut and you need to level up in the new year, I'd love to have you. We're kicking off the next round on January.
It's no secret. The world wants you weak. There's a coordinated effort by governments, media, healthcare, education, and more to destroy men of strength entirely. This agenda slowly seduces men into weakness and compliance. They become addicted to comfort, mentally weak, and ultimately reliant on the state. But embedded within the spirit of every man, there is a deep desire to be strong and independent, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well, to become the fathers, husbands, and community leaders that God designed us to be. My name is Jeremy Slayden, and I understand the struggle firsthand. As a former professional athlete, I found myself being led down a path of confusion and weakness after my sports career ended. Slowly, I became addicted to comfort. I was sluggish, out of shape, and disconnected from God. My spiritual life was in disarray, and my marriage was at risk. I knew things had to change, and after a big wake-up call, I embarked on a personal reset that transformed my mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. After my own personal transformation, I witnessed countless men trapped in similar circumstances, targeted by a culture aiming for their irrelevance. This led me to launch the Warrior Mind, Body, and Soul program. Warrior MBS is a 70-day competitive experience that has been designed from the ground up to unleash the strong man within you. It includes a comprehensive eating plan, a personally customized workout plan based on your goals, soul-building operations to strengthen your faith, and a brotherhood of like-minded Christian men who are with you in the fight. This experience is crafted from the ground up to help you get your mojo back. Here's what others are saying about Warrior MBS.
The program was amazing for me, just for muscle toning, for overall fitness.
Great diet, great soul building ops, great people you get to meet.
One of the things I love is that I'm surrounded by like-minded men who love the Lord, men who want to be good leaders, not only in their home, but also in the community for which they live.
It's changed my life. I think it has potential to change yours. I highly encourage that you join.
The world needs men who are strong, compassionate, and resilient, and it needs them now more than ever. Join me on this journey and become a warrior in mind, body, and soul.
So, Mark, I want to thank you. After watching that commercial and talking to you, I realized what's been missing from my program. I knew there was something. I don't have a badge system, and I don't have like a really cool, wood stick that we're fastening in metal plates to. That's super cool.
Yeah. No, that's, guys love bling. So yeah, there you go.
I got to do it. Well, tell us about the other books, because you are an established author with many books. And I think even before the interview, you mentioned there's a couple that we can get just by going to your website.
Yeah. And, I'd written a couple books for our leaders, and then they started coming up to me at meetings. Can I get an extra copy for like the nursery workers at my church or the children's church or my son's soccer coach, because I want them to understand this too. The first book is called Let Boys Be Boys. It's 3 winning strategies for leaders of boys. I took the book that I wrote for our leaders and I wrote it for anyone who's leading boys. And so this book talks about the biological, psychological, developmental differences between boys and girls, because our culture is trying to convince us that boys and girls are not different. And they are, and there's scientific proof. So this is strategies on how to reach those boys. Free at our site right now at traillifeusa.com. Then there's this book called Raising Godly Boys. We've developed in Trail Life USA a proven process for turning boys into godly men. We've discovered the things that boys are lacking. And I love the centerfold of this book. It talks about how boys are unguided, they're ungrounded, they're unappreciated, and they're uninspired. And then it prompts you in ways that you can take care of those things. 1 in 4 boys now doesn't have a father in his home. 76% of teachers are females. 80-something% of Sunday school teachers are female. Girls have these wonderful role models, and boys are lacking in good, solid male role models. So we guide them. For the unguided boy, we guide them. Boys are ungrounded today. 58% of Americans no longer believe that the Bible is a source of moral truth. So boys they're without the foundation that they need, the grounding. So we ground them, because Trail Life is a Christ-centered program. We use the Word of God to sprinkle throughout the entire program. And boys are also unappreciated because we tend, this gender blurring culture that we're in takes away the uniqueness, the winning, the risk, the competition that drives boys. We somehow think that that's dangerous or toxic. And so we've forgotten that boys and girls are different. And so we have a robust program that's aimed at the heart and the wild of a boy. And then last, boys are largely uninspired in our culture. And so we inspire them with a robust awards program like we talked about. We put challenges in front of them to show them they can do hard things, and they discover about themselves that if they work at something, even if they fail, they get up and try again, it's worth it. And so we're guiding them with good, strong men. We're grounding them with the Word of God at our core. We're appreciating them by letting them know we know that you're a boy. You're not some sort of defective girl. You're a boy. You're your own thing. Yeah. And we also inspire them through the programs and adventures that we offer.
As you were talking there, one thing, and I know we're probably coming up on time here, but I want to ask you your thoughts on why there are not more men they don't necessarily have to be a school teacher, but you're saying the girls have all these wonderful role models of women to look up to in all these various positions of leadership. Well, men are called into leadership. Why aren't they actively engaged?
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of generations that have just really chipped away at that. And, it was just what it is that we're setting up in our culture's model of men, and men are settling for that. So we had a generation of women who said, I don't need a man. They got their independence, which is wonderful. We really don't need. We can make it on our own. We can be independent. We can be strong. But they said we don't need a man. The next generation, their daughters said, well, I don't want a man because I see how unhelpful they are. And then the generation we're living in now says, I don't even know what a man is. And so it's been this progression along that's put us in the situation where we are, where men are kind of lost in a culture. Now we don't have purpose because people don't believe in us anymore. We've kind of lost our way. But there is a remnant that's rising, Jeremy, through folks like Trail Life and folks like what it is that you're doing with your mission, to not to shame men, because we've certainly shamed men enough. We can stand in front of them and say, hey, get going, get up, do what you're supposed to do. We're tired of you sitting. We can do all of that. But I got to tell you, culture is shaming men enough without us piling on. So our job isn't to shame them. Our job is to remind them of who they are. And if once a man is awakened to who it is that he is, or is reconnecting with who it is that he was created to be, then you've got a man of purpose. And a man of purpose is attractive, not just to the next generation of boys who want to be like him, but the men that are around him, and also the women in our culture say, there's somebody I can follow after I can believe it. I can believe in. So we've got to be about this business. And there's a remnant that's rising. Like I said, we've got 18,000 leaders in trail life. You're leading men. We've got people who are now in the business and the ministry of making this happen. But we've got to remind men of who it is that they are.
Absolutely. Give a word before we sign off here, because I want you to give your coordinates one more time, how people find both the Brave books, especially the one that you've joined with them to come out with, as well as Trail Life USA. But if a man is watching this right now and he says, I want in, I want to be a part of this remnant of men that are rising up, but I feel sort of lost. I have a faith, but I just feel like I'm blah. I'm not in the game. What's the first thing you tell them to do?
Yeah, well, go to traillifeusa.com, Trail Life USA, 2 L's in the middle, and look at that Find a Troop that you showed. Find a troop in your area. If you don't have one, find 4 other men or 4 other leaders. It just takes 5 adults with a local church that says, yeah, we believe in the next generation. We want to be a part of what God's doing there, and you can start a troop. And I'm telling you, that you don't have to have a son in the program. And if you have any moms watching this, you don't have to have a husband. Your boy can go because they'll be surrounded by dad likes. We had a woman in Virginia came up to me at a fire we had after an event. She says, I'm so thankful for Trail Life. She said, my husband died 10 years ago and left me with a 2-year-old son. She says, now he's 12 years old. He's a navigator in Trail Life USA. He is surrounded by godly men. She said, I cried out to God that there would be godly men to help my son. She says, my husband would want me to thank you. So there's a place in Trail Life. Even if you don't have a son, come alongside this brotherhood of men, showing boys and calling boys up into this brotherhood of men. It's a powerful thing. So for boys, it's great because they're going to have great time outdoors. They come for the adventure. Parents love it because of the character and leadership. Men love it because of the brotherhood. Single moms love it because there's someone to help raise their sons. And guys who are there find their way. And dads love it because they find a connection with their son that they don't have any other way. So it's powerful stuff. TrailLifeUSA.com. The Brave Books is at bravebooks.com. And you can buy the book by itself, or you can also subscribe, and they send you. This sounds like the program that maybe your boys have, where once a month they send you a book, and they're all just really great topics. Some of the other authors they've had are Kirk Cameron, Missy Robertson, Kevin Sorbo. These are all good people of character who have taken on and have co-authored these books along with Brave Books, so you can trust in the message.
Mark, man, all of it's awesome. I'm going to get that book and really look into this Trail Life USA because it seemed like such an awesome program. And I thank you for the work that you have been doing. I know it's your life's work, and just want to affirm you in that. And everybody, click those links in my description. Go check out Trail Life USA. Check out the new Brave books and give us a follow on social media. You can go to Trail Life USA on Instagram to do that as well. That was another place that I was able to find your work. So thank you again, Mark. I appreciate your time today and your work.
Jeremy, thank you so much. And thanks for what you're doing for men.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you again soon.
God bless.